Hey friends, I'm Gio, creator of this tale. I'm glad you're joining me. Time to meet a philodendron named Banner, a bookstore filled with coffee and memories, and a recipe lost to time. The story is called Finding Home in Each Other. Monday, September 29th. I drove into Asheville, North Carolina. It used to be my home a decade ago. Hard to believe I've been on the road for nearly 2,000 miles. I've been a forest ranger for the last 7 years, since I've graduated college. I've been living close to nature, living the dream I'd had since middle school, far away in Yellowstone. The phone call with Mom still haunted me. Look, Elijah, your sister just graduated college, master's in architecture. She's already found a job at an architecture firm in Miami, and she's moving there next month. She'll be making 6 digits starting her first year. I'm happy for her. Mom paused as if this conversation pained her. If you had stayed in college... Mom let it trail off, sighing loudly. Mom, I only needed a bachelor's degree. In forestry? Mom said, pointedly. That's not a real degree. It doesn't pay anything. Your sister will make 3 times what you made in her first year alone. How do you expect to support a family? I'm not getting married, Mom. Don't give me excuses. Your sister has a husband who earns 6 figures. They're buying a house just outside Miami, and they have a 2-year-old son. They are happy and fulfilled. I know, I said, letting the bitterness fill my tone. She has the perfect life, blah, blah, blah. You've told me 1,000,000 times. Lay off, Mom, or I'll hang up. Mom paused. When she spoke, her voice had softened. Elijah, honey, you've been drifting for 2 years, ever since Grant moved overseas. You haven't been the same. I'm worried about you. I'm fine, Mom. No, you're not. Talk to me. Mom always knew when things got bad. I'm 29, see her every other Christmas, and I still confide in her. I know Grant left 2 years ago, yet I still have this hole in my chest that I can never fill. Life feels like I'm going through the motions. You really loved him? I thought he was my home, but home doesn't send you a wedding invite like it's a party you forgot to RSVP. Mom winced. Don't tell me he sent one, did he? I nodded, patting my chest. It's in my pocket, heavy cardstock, embossed letters, and a note about honeymooning in southern France like that's supposed to impress me. She sighed. That's beyond petty. Good riddance to bad trash. When's the wedding? This Saturday. He got over me like I was yesterday's used car. The funny thing, I still miss what we had. Careful, temporal GAG syndrome, Mom said. Don't go messing with things better left in the ground. Next thing you know, you'll want to poke it with a stick. Excuse me? Grass is always greener syndrome, she said, except you're comparing the present with the past. Have you been watching Doctor Who again? Mom chuckled. Seeing every episode back to William Hartnell. Seriously, you see the past as greener than where you are right now. It's not. It has just as many divots and potholes as any modern road does, maybe more. I didn't say anything. I let the silence stretch, like the drive behind me, long, cracked, and unfinished. You can't put your life on pause. It has to be lived. That's why they call it living, Mom continued. This might be perfect. My sister, your Aunt Lydia, is getting out of the care center at the end of the month. Knee surgery. It's just as bad as it sounds. Anyway, she'll need someone to watch over her, cook meals, do the shopping, light cleaning. I can't because I'm working full time, and with the holidays coming, it's only going to get busier. Come back home for a week and be with family. It will give you time to put the ghost to bed. GPS led me through streets I once knew, fragments from a youth I barely remembered. My aunt's house was a 2-story homestead from the 19th century, a historic site, She had kept it up with money from my uncle's estate, God rest his soul. Pale yellow walls, dark brown trim, gingerbread filigree, a wrought iron door with a cozy pillared porch out front. It had tall windows with a large window box flooded with bright pink geraniums. Pink, Aunt Lydia's favorite color. Technically, it was the old family house. Lydia and Mom had grown up here. My grandparents had passed years ago. When Mom moved out to raise her family, Lydia and her family remained. It was just Lydia now. My uncle was buried near Raleigh, where his family had lived, and her only child, my cousin, had moved to Vegas. After the divorce, Mom had moved back in. A couple of white Adirondack chairs reveled on the porch, festooned with pillows that matched the geraniums. One had faded embroidery. Home is where your roots remember. A dozen trees shaded the house with even more in the back. My aunt loved to garden. Her immaculate lawn, precise borders, and vibrant tapestry of seasonal blooms attested to her love of gardening. The air smelled of fresh mown grass and lemonade. My childhood. The smell of fresh baked cookies greeted me as I walked up the short stairs to the porch. Grant had baked cookies every week, seldom repeating a recipe. I promised myself I wasn't going to think of him again, but something always reminded me of him. "Elijah, is that you?" called a voice from inside. "Yes, Mom, I just pulled up. What are you doing here? You should be at work." "Told them I'd be late. I'm having lunch with my favorite son." "I'm your only son," I said, walking into the old-fashioned parlor. Cream walls, one covered with an old-fashioned wallpaper with geometric patterns, dark wood trim, hardwood floors the color of bourbon, even a stone fireplace with a dark wood mantel. One wall was a floor-to-ceiling bookshelf with science fiction hardbacks from decades ago. Grandpa had been an avid reader. He preferred Star Trek to Star Wars because they tried to get the science right. In the center of the room was an old stump dug out of the ground, roots and all from an old tree Hurricane Hugo had knocked down, that Grandpa had polished and varnished smooth. He'd made it into a one-of-a-kind coffee table you can't buy in stores. Mom said she hated it, but she often ran a hand along its smooth, varnished surface, as if stirring the tree rings. Grandpa had even built in a small drawer that you never noticed, unless it was pointed out. Lydia had decorated the room with pink roses, living plants, and about 1,000 knickknacks, ranging from pink unicorns to a vase that looked like a $sign. Her tastes were unapologetic, part princess, part capitalist, all chaos. The old stereo on the counter played one of Mom's playlists, retro music from decades long buried. Mom and Lydia sat on sturdy chairs in the kitchen, Lydia's leg in a brace from ankle to hip, and her pink walker rested close by. Mom wore her work vest. She worked at the local DIY warehouse, while Lydia wore a pink house dress with matching bunny slippers. A plate held ciabatta sandwiches made with cucumber and yellow bell pepper, sweetened with a honey mustard sauce, held together with toothpicks with pink flags. A jar of home-canned pickled red cabbage rested nearby. 3 North Carolina Panthers mugs held fresh raspberry lemonade. I blinked at the sandwiches. "Did you make these?" Lydia winked. "Pink house, pink socks, pink sandwiches, but they wouldn't give me a pink brace. Look at that thing. It looks like it's going to its own funeral." "Tie a pink ribbon on it and say it's a fashion statement," I said, taking a seat. We chatted about the weather and about the Panthers, about the hurricane forecast, funny stories from the care center, even a couple about clueless tourists up in Yellowstone. By then, Mom had to leave. She handed me a shopping list and Lydia's debit card. "Hadn't had time to go shopping. We're out of everything," she said. "I'll take care of things here," I said. I close tonight, but I'll text on break. Love you. Love you too, Mom. After Mom left, Lydia updated the list. Butterfingers, moon pies, sour pickles, insisting she'd spent so many days eating healthy food at the care center that she needed junk. I helped her out to the porch, nearly carrying her. She'd lost weight while recovering. Her body felt smaller, lighter than I remembered. A quiet reminder that she wasn't the robust force she used to be. Get out of here, my aunt said. I'm just going to sleep. I'll need help with my medication about 5. They put those damn tops on the bottles I can never get off. What do you want for dinner? Old-fashioned cheesy noodles, the way Mama used to make them, she mumbled as she drifted off to sleep. I didn't know it then, but that one throwaway line was about to become my mission statement for the next week. Open 24 hours a day, Walmart was about 2 miles away. I texted Mom about the family cheesy noodles recipe. She texted back that nobody wanted to make it. Too complicated. Took too much time. She'd check if she had the recipe somewhere, but she doubted it. When I was a kid, Grandma had made it every Easter. Her own secret recipe, or so she claimed. Her kitchen smelled like some high-class restaurant every time she made it. It wasn't regular cheesy noodles that came in a box, but something special. Grandma had died shortly after her 75th birthday. Her recipe collection little more than a legend. Checking out the shopping list, I walked aisle by aisle in the strange store, backwards from what I was used to. It took me longer to search. Nearly done, I stopped by the pasta sauce. She wanted a cheesy Alfredo. Only 1 bottle left. My hand covered his. Oops, sorry, I said, withdrawing my hand. He stood an inch shorter than me. Hazel hair, crisp eyes that crinkled at the edges, a warm voice. My fault, I wasn't thinking. You had it first, I mumbled, taking a step back. I can use marinara instead. No, go ahead and take it, I said, my gaze meeting his. I'll sub with Velveeta. A slim face with an easy smile. You must be new in town. Name's Marcus Christie. Elijah Hilliard. Grew up here but moved away just after high school. Marcus glanced at the bottle in his hand, then back at me. You're making something special? I nodded. Cheesy noodles, the old-fashioned kind. My aunt asked for them. Not the box stuff, then? No, something real. He smiled. That's a good kind of cooking, the kind that remembers. I blinked. Mom remembers it. My aunt remembers it, but nobody seems to have the recipe. Marcus tilted his head. You know, I run a little bookstore cafe just off Sunset Avenue. Vintage Grinds. I've got some ancient cookbooks there, some from the 1940s, plus a lot of other fun stuff. I smiled, despite myself. Sounds like my kind of place. Come by sometime. I'll make you a cup of coffee, he said, turning toward the checkout. Then he glanced back at me, as if taking a chance. I've got a Swiss cheese philodendron on the counter named Banner. He's a romantic. You haven't seen anything like it. I laughed. Is that a plant, a sandwich, or a comic book? Marcus looked over his shoulder, hesitated, then gave me a shy smile. My pet plant. I named him after Daryl Banner, my favorite gay romance author. He paused, then added, Stop by tomorrow morning. I'm in at 6, but the rush hour hits around 8. How about we search through the cookbooks at 9? And just like that, he was gone. It was 18 heartbeats before I moved again. How did I know? I felt it. An independent man who owns his own store, reads gay romance, and takes care of plants. That meant he had both organizational and money skills. I like him already. My ex, Grant, never bothered with mundane things like budgets. I took care of rent, electricity, Netflix, even Grant's credit card. In return, he was supposed to cook and do the shopping, which became cheap Chinese takeout and pizza. Then he was too tired. Then he complained we had no money. The past, where grass was always greener, just sprouted a pothole. I checked out looking for Marcus, looking for his subtle humor and shy smile. He must have left. A tiny knot of longing hung in my chest, and I stared at the almost empty parking lot with the sense that I had missed something. Back at my aunt's place, I found she had hobbled into the living room and landed in an overstuffed lounge chair. It was close to 5, so I brought her the medication. She took the pills and swallowed them with a little bit of orange juice. "Have you ever been to Vintage Grinds?" I asked. Lydia muted the TV and leaned over to talk. "I've driven past it. Who uses books anymore?" "They sell coffee too." "Why, the interest," she glanced at me, not quite smirking, but as if she knew something. I avoided her gaze, picking up her empty glass. "Met the owner at the store. Nice guy. Says he has some vintage cookbooks. Do you have a copy of Grandma's cheesy noodles recipe?" "No, I think she found it in a book or a magazine. Swore by some secret ingredient, but I don't remember what." "Do you remember which book or magazine?" She focused on me, smirking as she did. "Did you ask him out?" "Aunt Lydia," I protested. "I didn't have to. I think he asked me out." "I'll make dinner. What do you want?" Lydia folded her arms, giving me a patient smile. Last June, Vintage Grinds had a pride flag in the window all month long. Girl says he's single, but not shopping. At least not for them. Stepping back in mock protest, I let out a long sigh. "I can't believe you. Are you matchmaking?" "You'd better have said yes," she chuckled, eyes narrowing. "You've mourned Grant long enough. Go make some salami and Swiss sandwiches. Make mine heavy on the sriracha. And you can tell this old gossip if he's cute." Tuesday, September 30th. I woke the next morning to the smell of baking snickerdoodles, the cinnamon infusing the air with warmth. My phone read 8 o'clock. I'd slept through the alarm. You'd think I have gotten up early, 2-hour time difference and all. But the long drive took its toll. So much for the early bird. Dressing in gray shorts and a white tank with a blue stripe across the middle, I ran downstairs. Aunt Lydia had gone against the doctor's orders and was standing on both legs, making cookies. "You know what the doctor said," I scolded, stealing a hot cookie from a tray. "Just came out of the oven," she said. "Too hot to touch, but not too hot to eat," I said, blowing on the cookie a couple of times, and took a bite anyway. "You need to be off the leg, at least for this week." "I couldn't let you leave empty-handed," she replied, placing small dough balls covered in cinnamon and sugar on a cookie sheet lined with a parchment paper. "First impressions are important." "I met Marcus yesterday, remember?" "Doesn't matter," she said. "Now is your chance to make waves. I've already gotten out the china platter. You know the one. It's covered in flowers. And speaking of, I already cut some from the garden so you can give them to him." Only then did I notice the bouquet of pink and white and yellow flowers standing in the lemonade pitcher. Warmth bloomed across my face. "We're just looking through cookbooks. Nothing serious." "Then don't be serious when you give them to him." She smiled knowingly. I remembered the secret ingredient. "What's that?" I must have been about 10, helping Mama cook for Easter. I didn't know what it was. It was in Japanese, but she stirred it into her cheesy noodles like magic. She could only find it in specialty stores. "Are you going to tell me?" Lydia leaned forward like she was revealing a state secret. White miso paste. I left around 8:45 with a platter of 24 snickerdoodles, a wrapped bouquet, and some unsolicited advice that made me feel 15 again. Advice like, did you brush your teeth? Comb your hair, it's sticking up. Change your shirt, it's too laid back. She wasn't satisfied until I wore a green button-down. The zinger? No kissing on the first date. Vintage grinds nestled in an old strip mall off of Sunset Avenue. Gold brick, huge plate-glassed windows that led in the morning sun, and a small sign in the window read, Vintage Grinds. Stop by for coffee, go home with a book, park in the back, and sit a spell. Make sure you say hi to Banner. He thrives on attention and tips. The window display showcased several volumes, the Harry Potter series, the Lord of the Rings trilogy, and the first 5 books of the Wheel of Time. A large plant with heart-shaped green and gold leaves draped lovingly around the books. A plant tag read, Tolkien, you shall not pass until you get a cup of coffee. Golden pothos. Someone held the door for me as I balanced the tray, all its cookies, and the bouquet. Cool and serene, the moment I stepped inside felt like entering a forest glen, stitched together with bookshelves and leaves. Vintage grind smelled of coffee's sharpness, of the softness of caramel, and the freshness of something newly baked, and the deep paper smell of vintage books. Just beyond the quiet conversations was quiet guitar music, sung by a man with a tender voice. A CD rested on the counter with a note saying, Today's music, First Day of My Life, by Bright Eyes. 5 people lounged at the tables, one looking at a newspaper. Toward the back, the coffee bar anchored the space, flanked by a half-dozen tables and mismatched chairs that looked well-loved. 3 stools lined up to the bar, with a glass pastry case filled with delights next to it. One person took orders. The barista station gleamed, lined with coffee pots, a chrome espresso machine humming softly, and 2 people crafting designer drinks, like alchemists of the morning. Marcus was one of them. The final person at the bar, a plant tag rose above a spectacular plant. Banner. Kindness isn't meant to be reciprocated in vain. It's a gift. Give it for the sake of giving it. Swiss cheese philodendron. A huge pile of oblong pointed leaves overflowed with holes. Swiss cheese? Hardly. It was 3D lace, alive and breathing, a botanical miracle of chlorophyll and geometry. I'd never seen anything like it. Beautiful, intricate, a plant that engendered awe and made me smile. Marcus sung along with the music. I'm glad I didn't die before I met you, before looking up and spotting me. He broke into a smile. Elijah, Marcus called from the espresso machine. Those are beautiful. He set a clear coffee pot filled with water on the counter next to the philodendron. Put the flowers in here. Banner will like the company. As soon as I finish this order, we'll get started. How do you like your coffee? I looked at the menu scrawled on the whiteboard in looping marker script. Cinnamon bloom. To go with the cookies? Marcus teased. Good choice. Did you make them? I lowered my gaze, staring a moment at Banner. Suddenly, my emotions were complicated. The nerves hit my stomach, and my palms felt slippery. Not because I didn't make the cookies, but because this was a first date. Had I been on one since Grant left? A couple, I think, but nothing serious. This felt different. Serious, like it meant something. No, my aunt did, I quickly responded. She's helping me make a good impression. Things didn't end so well last time, so she's playing Cupid to jumpstart my love life. Marcus paused, as if looking into himself. That's why I came to Asheville. Sometimes it's better leaving than living with the fallout. He nodded to a table by several bookshelves. 3 books lay on top. Set up over there. Give me 5 minutes. In 3 minutes, he brought my coffee and pulled up a mismatched chair. He took a cookie, dipped it in his coffee, and opened one of the books. I found a couple of old cookbooks. The oldest is from 1948, a collection of recipes from Midwest Family Meal Digest. We leafed through the first cookbook, searching for anything with cheese and noodles. It offered plenty, but nothing with white miso paste. As we browsed other volumes, conversation came easy. Talking about where we'd been, where we'd studied, I told him about working in Yellowstone. He told me about teaching high school English in Pittsburgh. It didn't work out, Marcus said softly. I thought being a teacher meant helping kids grow, but instead it broke me. He reached for a worn copy of Julia Child's cookbook and flipped to the index. The paperwork drowned me. Staff squabbles wore me down. I kept trying to make a difference, but the bitter ones, the teachers who had given up, didn't want to train another idealistic rookie. They say most teachers last 5 years before they quit, he added. I made it 4. I slid the book closer and turned to one of the pages. 4 years? Add 6 for my bachelor's and master's. All that time, all that money. Flushed. Took me a long time before I cared again. Marcus leaned over me, looking at the recipe. Not the right one, I said. I love books, he said softly. Love how words look on the page, how rearranging them creates subtle meanings. But after those years, as a teacher, none of it mattered. I left Pittsburgh, left my family, my friends, only brought Banner with me. I wandered, fell in love with Asheville. Where you started Vintage Grinds, I said. He smiled faintly. Correction. Banner and I built this little haven 4 years ago. Marcus looked around the coffee shop, at the overgrown masterpiece that was Banner. And when things are slow, I make books. You write books? No, I make them. Each one starts with handmade antique rice paper, delicate, fibrous, imperfect in all the right ways. I bind them using a Japanese stab stitch. It's usually done with 4 holes, but I prefer the symmetry of 8. There's something rhythmic about it. The covers are sturdy cardboard wrapped in either fabric or leather, depending on the mood I want the book to evoke. They sound like art. I leaned on my elbow as Marcus went into detail about creating his books, letting our eyes naturally connect. His voice was animated, excited, yet every so often, something shy settled into his eyes. The way he looked away, or bit his lip, the way he almost reached for my hand, then pulled away. Or when our fingers touched, sliding a book to each other, his touch lingered before pulling away. Asheville had become his escape from pain, but could it have had its share of loneliness as well? New man in a new city, starting over. No friends, no family, no connections. Except for Banner, the plant? Was I any different? Gun-shy? Cautious about the relationship game? Yet needed something? A warmth not easily put into words? Maybe Marcus did as well. Something inside me relaxed. Marcus sat up, stretching his back. How long you in town? I returned to Yellowstone on Sunday. It's beautiful this time of year, especially when the sun sets over the mountains. You have pictures? Pulling out my phone, I flipped through my gallery. This is the sun setting over the mountains. I was standing at Morning Glory Pool, in the Upper Geyser Basin, looking west to the Madison Plateau. He took my phone to look at the picture. Look at the sky. It's like the clouds are made of gold. I was about to show several more pictures, but a group of 6 people walked in. One of the baristas quickly glanced our way, begging for help with only a look. Marcus raised his eyebrows. He closed the cookbook, the final one on the table, the light glinting off his hazel hair. Looks like it's back to business. Maybe we could look through more books tomorrow? My phone said 10:30. We'd been at this for 90 minutes, but it only felt like 10. Sipping the last of my coffee, I looked at the notes we'd made on a yellow pad. "I'd like that," I said. He paused, taking a breath, and glanced at me. "Do you want to exchange numbers?" His voice wavered, as if finding the courage to ask meant diving deep inside himself. Even without the eager look in his eyes, I would have said yes. I unlocked my phone, handed it to him to type his number in, while I typed my number into his. "Banner will watch over the flowers," Marcus said as I turned to leave. "What about the platter with the cookies?" "That gives me another reason to come back tomorrow." Wednesday, October 1st. I stopped by Walmart to pick up a few things for my aunt and for dinner, and a 12-pack of Michelob Light for me, before stopping by Vintage Grinds. They'd restocked the Alfredo sauce, so I'd make my classic dish. No recipe needed. Rotini noodles, triple cheese Alfredo, torn bacon. Cheesy noodles without the box. It wasn't Loretta's recipe, but for a guy who didn't like complicated, it worked. Grant didn't like it. He hated bacon, was lactose intolerant, and liked complicated recipes that took hours. Said my simple version tasted just as bad as what came in a box. Who puts bacon in cheesy noodles anyway? His new husband can deal with him now. Marcus and I sat for an hour, pretending to look through cookbooks. Banner carefully watched us, our verdant chaperone. I stayed there for an hour, enjoying the way Marcus's eyes lit up when he spoke, or the careful way he spun caramel into the foam on my cup to form an E. I swear it felt like 5 minutes. Lydia had dozed on the porch again, leaving me a few minutes to tidy up the morning dishes and sneak a couple of snickerdoodles, vacuum, and mow the lawn. Lawns in North Carolina grow at twice the rate of those in Wyoming. Lydia had woken by the time I finished. I helped her settle in front of the TV with a plate of snickerdoodles and a glass of chocolate milk before putting the lawnmower in the shed. I was about to enter the shower when a text appeared. I found 5 more cookbooks, even celebrations for Yuletide from 1979. Tomorrow at 9? I would love to see them. We'd have more time if we went for dinner. What's your plans for Saturday night? That's your last night? He texted. Sunday, I head back to Wyoming. Don't envy the drive. I know a place that makes roast chicken marsala, almond green beans, and Parmesan mashed potatoes. We'll end it with blueberry cheesecake for dessert. Say, 7? The dots on the phone blinked in time to my heart. I had turned the shower on when the text came, so the humidity was starting to fog the mirror. Which restaurant? I texted him my aunt's address. He replied, "Are you inviting me over for dinner?" "Only for research purposes." Another wait, and then he replied, "I'll bring the Pinot Noir. Are you doing anything tomorrow? It's my day off, and I want to show you one of my favorite places. I don't want to tell you because it's a surprise." I leaned against the cold porcelain sink. "What time?" 9 at the grind. We'll look through the cookbooks, and then I'll show you. Talk about it tomorrow morning after coffee? We flirt texted for 30 minutes before I remembered the shower. The hot water had run out, and I'd made plans at my aunt's house without asking her. The invitation for Grant's wedding sat on the bedside table, crinkled, a little bent, his face and his future husband on the cover. Why hadn't I thrown it away? Did I still care for him? Walking over, I shoved it into the drawer. One cold shower, I ran downstairs and confessed to Lydia what I had done. We are only searching for Grandma's cheesy noodles recipe. It isn't anything serious. She humphed, glanced at me, and said, "Baked chicken marsala? You'd better make enough for me, pretty boy." She batted her eyes with the force of slamming a car door. Thursday, October 2nd. Marcus and I met around 9 and went through the books for another hour or so. He drove us in his red Ford Fusion, the car as clean as he kept his store. An air freshener blessed the air with its vanilla scent. Though we kept the windows down as we drove, the wind was a refreshing change. We headed southwest via I-26 and then NC 191 toward Bent Creek. It was a 10-mile drive to the North Carolina Arboretum, nestled just off the Blue Ridge Parkway. The trees had changed color. Orange and yellows mixed with the occasional red. The air smelled of autumn leaves and wet earth. Low clouds hid the tops of the Blue Ridge Mountains, recently dusted with early season snow. "I can't wait to show you the bonsai. They're incredible," he said, as we paid the fee and pulled into the Arboretum parking lot. As we left the car, he pulled a picnic basket from the trunk. "Are you a romantic?" I teased. "I learned a long time ago not to argue with Banner." "I can't fight that logic," I said. "Next time you see Banner, tell him I think it's the most romantic $20 I've ever spent." We both held the wickered handle of the basket, our hands achingly close, its weight comforting in our shared grip. Marcus suppressed a smile. He was enjoying this as much as I was. Our shoulders warmed by the sun, we found a bench by the quilt garden, a giant quilt made out of flowers and concrete pathways. We faced the floral patchwork as we unpacked the basket, a glittering fountain behind us, its gentle noise serenading the afternoon. The floral-scented air was laced with hints of pine and the faint buzzing of bees diving around the flowers. And the delight of his cologne. I wanted to kiss him right now, but I resisted. When we finished our feast of ham and cheese on sourdough, with grapes and strawberries for desserts, and returned the basket to the car, we hiked one of the wilderness trails, our feet scrunching through the fallen leaves. We enjoyed the stillness. No phones buzzed, no texts, no blaring cars with music too loud. Just the silence we shared with the mountains. The slight whistle of the wind through the leaves, the warmth of the sun on our faces, was enough. His face relaxed. A calm smile broke out. Marcus picked up a red leaf from a sugar maple. "Brilliant, beautiful, and fading fast," he whispered. I took his hand. Our eyes met. My heart beat a little fast. He licked his lips. The quiet, the intimacy, the warmth. I savored the touch of his lips on mine, the velvet caress of his breath on my skin, the longing satisfaction that dawned in his eyes. It had been a while since I kissed anyone, Grant being the last person. Had I done it right? You don't forget how, no matter the time, even months, or 2 years. I pulled back, hesitant, not sure if I had crossed a line, voided our budding friendship. Slowly, Marcus opened his eyes, their vulnerability visible. Was that a tear? He placed his hands on each side of my cheeks, paused for a heartbeat, gazing at me, a loneliness breaking through. He leaned in and returned the kiss, tender, unsure, filled with doubt. Our lips intertwined, his grew firm, as if remembering something from long ago. We stepped apart, hands finding each other, gazing at each other, panting, not sure if we should speak, not daring to break the moment, letting the quiet speak for us. His hand was warm. As we drove back to Asheville, a line from a poem ran through my head. The day the wind smelled like memory and maple. And Marcus's cologne. Friday, October 3rd. Marcus gave me that look like he just saw something from another planet. According to Midwest Family Meal Digest, 1974, you put crushed potato chips on top of cheesy noodles. Who puts crushed potato chips on anything? Must be a food thing from the 1970s. Ladies and gentlemen, Marcus teased, coming soon to Vintage Grinds, cheesy noodle surprise, topped with your choice of potato chips or cornflakes at no extra charge. Funny looks are optional, I quipped. We fist bumped before turning to the next book. Saturday, October 4th. I got home from Walmart about 2 and parked alongside Mom's car. Instead of having her afternoon nap, Lydia had decorated. Mom was there helping. Oh God, the matchmaker's in action. What am I, 17 and going to prom? My date back then had been a guy named Steve. Before I left to pick him up, Mom had pinned a pride flag on my lapel, right next to the pink carnation from Lydia. Dad had secretly slid a Trojan into my jacket pocket and whispered, "Man or woman, I don't care, just don't be stupid, okay?" Even though Mom and Dad had split, I still remember Dad's wisdom. Guess what was always in my wallet? A blue tablecloth rested on the dining room table, with 2 polished crystal candle holders resting beside, a vase of freshly picked pink and white chrysanthemums. 2 white taper candles and a box of matches lay next to them. Casually placed old family pictures now sprung atop the old piano and on the kitchen counter. All of me as a baby, a child, an awkward teen, my prom picture, my college graduation, even me as a park ranger. The vacuum rested near Lydia's chair, cord lazily stretched to a plug in the other room. A window was open, in spite of the heat outside, a gentle breeze blowing through the curtains. More pictures of me were on the coffee table. However, none of Grant and me, or anything that might have included Grant. As if he hadn't existed. Also, no speck of dust existed. They'd been busy. The air smelled of sourdough bread rising in the oven. The TV quietly played a YouTube video about skincare, and Mom and Lydia quietly giggled about something in the kitchen. "You can stop talking about me now," I said, setting my shopping bags on the kitchen counter, next to the pictures of me. The giggling stopped, but the weird looks started. Mom glanced at me, then at one of the fridge magnets. Lydia leaned on the counter, favoring her injured leg, and folded her arms. I didn't like her smile. Yep, they were talking about me. "What are you gossiping about?" I asked, taking the chicken breasts from one bag and setting them on the counter. "Nothing," Mom said, innocently. At the same time, Lydia said, "Talking about old times." Then they chuckled. Mom shyly glanced at me. I found that picture when you were in Little League. Remember that old blue and white uniform?" "The Asheville Falcons," I said. "I was 10 and you could never get the grass stains out." Mom teared up. "Feels like I'm watching my baby walk out the door for prom all over again." "You're all growed up," Lydia said. "Enough yapping. Everything's set. As soon as we eat, your mom and I are heading out for a movie, leaving you 2 parakeets alone." Marcus showed up 5 minutes before 7, freshly shaven, casual linen shirt freshly ironed, and sporting a musky cologne that made him a pleasure to hug. He held me a beat longer than necessary, almost like he was afraid of letting go. A large bag sprawled beside him, filled with books and wine, and a potted plant rested near him. A Swiss cheese philodendron waved its tiny flag proudly, red, white, and blue, clearly a descendant of Banner. "These are for tonight," Marcus said, pulling the wine out of the bag and handing them to Mom. His gaze settled on all the pictures of me before he resumed speaking. He picked up the plant, handing it to Lydia. "And this is for you, Aunt Lydia. Thank you for having me. It smells heavenly in here." "Who is this?" Lydia said, accepting the plant. "Is he a drama queen? Gets all prissy if he doesn't have enough light or something." I grinned. I told Mom and Aunt Lydia all about how you name plants after different authors. Marcus smiled. "McQuiston. She's from a cutting from Banner, and no, she gets by with once-a-week watering. Just remember, she's very patriotic and has strong opinions about royal romances." Lydia placed McQuiston in the exact center of the tree rings in the coffee table. That should keep her happy. We sat around Lydia's oak dining table, elaborate with the blue tablecloth, candles, and fine china. I brought out the baked chicken masala, while Marcus opened the wine and filled our glasses. Once our plates were full, conversation ranged from Lydia's misadventures with apricots. She had left the dentist office after having a tooth removed, her mouth swollen and numb, and went to the store to get a bottle of 100 aspirin. But the attendant thought she said apricots, and diligently brought her 57 apricots, all they had in the store. Mom told about her job and her divorce. Marcus chimed in, telling about his divorce from a guy named Riley. After dinner, we lounged in the living room, and I served the cheesecake. Of course, Mom made me talk about Grant. I even retrieved the wedding invite from the bedroom and showed everybody, before I set it on the tree-root coffee table, next to McQuiston and the cookbooks. Lydia's comment? "Have to admire the boy for his stupidity." At 8:30, I helped Lydia out to Mom's car. "You can handle everything all right?" I asked as Mom reapplied her lipstick. "We'll be fine," Lydia bellowed. Mom drove them away, leaving Marcus and me delightfully alone. I Bluetoothed my phone to the stereo. Softly, it began playing "First Day of My Life" by Bright Eyes. Marcus raised his eyebrows. "That's the song that was playing on our first date," I whispered, shrugging as if it were a perfectly random thing to say. "Tell me about the pictures," he said, a smile hinting on his lips. Marcus grabbed my hand, pulling me to a clump on the counter. Embarrassed, I pointed how old I was in each one, what I was supposed to be doing, where it was at. He pulled me to the ones on the coffee table, sheltered by McQuiston and the cookbooks. We knelt, and I pointed at one. "That's right before I left for Yellowstone." "You look so young," he said, glancing past the coffee table to the bookshelf. "Have you read any of these?" "Grandpa was always reading," I replied, standing. "He even has a first edition signed by the author. The Summer Tree by Guy Gavriel Kay said he stood in line for an hour at some convention." I pulled Marcus to his feet, but he smiled mischievously and pulled me back down. "Maybe later." I slipped, knocking the coffee table. McQuiston toppled over, spilling dirt over the wedding invitation, before falling off the side. "McQuiston!" Marcus yelled. "Sorry," I yelled back, running to rescue the plant. It had landed upside down in front of the little hidden drawer. "Careful," Marcus said, gently picking the plant up. "What's in there?" "Family junk," I replied, opening the drawer. "I don't think it's ever been cleaned out." Old papers, old photos, and a stack of old 3x5 cards carefully bound with a ribbon. I pulled them all out. Photos of Grandma and Grandpa, of Mom and Lydia as girls, even an old love letter from Grandpa to Grandma. The cards were Grandma's old recipes. I ran a thumb across one of the cards. The ink was faded. I held my breath. In Grandma's crisp handwriting, baked, cheesy noodle casserole. Recipe given to me by Della Rose, owner of the Rusty Cactus Diner in Dead Man's Butte, Nevada, on our honeymoon to Las Vegas, June 1965. Her wedding present. White miso paste was circled with a separate note. Check Japanese markets. Marcus leaned closer. Is that it? I nodded, tears fogging the corner of my eyes. Grandma's forgotten recipe. He lifted the ribbon-bound stack with the reverence of an old family Bible. McQuiston once again sat proudly on the table, beside us, once again right side up, leaves brushed clean, her spirit gently unfurling, like pages in a book. Grant's wedding invitation lay under a fine dusting of dirt, still present, but somehow quieter. For a second I misread it. Marcus plus Elijah. Gently pressing the recipes back into the drawer, except for the cheesy noodles. This was always supposed to be found like this. Deja vu or something? Or something. Sitting on the floor with McQuiston as the only witness, we kissed, slow at first, but the desire grew. It had been a long time since I allowed myself to be this close to someone, and it felt like coming home. Marcus reached for my hand. Maybe the past didn't fail you. Love takes time to grow spectacular, like Banner. The quiet wisdom of a philodendron, I said. Something like that. We stood. I walked to the bookshelf and slid The Summer Tree from the shelf. Inside, faded from the decades, was a photo of Grandma and Grandpa, both looking like children. Grandpa wore a dark suit, Grandma in a wedding dress with puffy sleeves and a lace front. He had a white carnation on his lapel. She held the wedding bouquet. Their wedding cake, a 4-tiered masterpiece of frosting flowers and a bubbling fountain, stopped the show. A few pages later, the pages had pressed a white carnation, now yellowed with time, flat. A note on the paper next to it read, Wedding, May, 1965, the day our love truly began. Marcus looked at the picture and flower over my shoulder. This represents 55 years of love. You need to show it to your aunt and your mom. It's family legend. I smiled. I'd like to make new legends. I wish you weren't leaving tomorrow, he whispered. I couldn't look at Marcus, so I pretended to study the ancient recipe. My life was in Yellowstone, but it had soured. It wasn't my home, not any longer. Maybe I needed to make a new home. With my family, with Banner, with Marcus. Will you be my home? I whispered. Outside, the breeze stirred the curtains and carried in the scent of fresh mown grass. We were no longer searching. We were remembering. Only as long as I can bring Banner, he whispered, just before we kissed. Epilogue. Easter. 5 years later. We drove up to Lydia's house. Marcus and I brought cheesy noodles, Grandma's original recipe, plus our children, all cuttings from Banner. I had transitioned from Yellowstone to the Arboretum. In some ways, the work remained the same. Trail maintenance, emergency services, tour guide. In other ways, it was different, helping with planting, setting up exhibits, assisting with special events. It was a good, fulfilling life. Marcus and I had married 3 years ago, and every year on our anniversary, we traveled, We've been to Yellowstone, Miami, even Paris. Every night, when Marcus and I are together, I tell him I love him and thank him for bringing me home. Marcus always chuckles and says, Banner deserves all the credit. Thanks, my friends, for joining me. I'm Gio, the author and narrator. If you'd like more stories, please visit my other channel, Loud and Proud L3Q. I love you all. Peace, my friends.